Oisin for that very flattering, hardly deserved introduction. But again, thank you everybody here for turning up on this occasion. Today, the world is focusing its attention on the erratic behaviour of the dictator in the White House, while virtually ignoring the ongoing human catastrophe inflicted on the Palestinian people in general and those in Gaza in particular. All the while, there is now absolute silence about the Palestinian political prisoners incarcerated by the Zionist regime. Well, we are here today to challenge that injustice and to make it clear that those prisoners are POWs and not terrorists, a strategy adopted from the Zionist state's founders, Britain. In the course of this campaign today, we intend to focus our attention on the case of Marwan Barghouti, since his story encapsulates the essence of Palestinian resistance and the prices that its adherents pay for their devotion to that cause. Before I begin, might I ask then that we send a message of solidarity to those pro-Palestinian activists currently held prisoner in England.
Yeah.
The Five for Palestinian Movement's manifesto. The Five for Palestine movement recognises the right of Palestinians to exist as a free and independent people. The Five for Palestine therefore also recognises that Palestinians have the right to resist occupation, oppression and starvation. However, the Five for Palestine movement emphatically rejects any attempt to assert or even imply that being anti-Zionist is anti-Semitic, and this movement unreservedly condemns anti-Semitism. None so fitted to break the chains as those who wear them, none so well equipped to decide what is a fetter. Words spoken by James Connolly, which bear an enormous significance on this spot, on this moment, standing here, as so many have indeed wore those chains. We are today calling for, demanding the release of the great and heroic Palestinian leader Marwan Barghouti. We also raise our voices in support of the thousands of prisoners, or a more accurate description, hostages, being held under utterly barbaric conditions in Zionist captivity. Nor indeed can we fail to mention those brave Palestinian supporting activists held hostage in British prisons. First, though, allow me to talk of that man that is Marwan Barghouti. Marwan Barghouti has been described as, by that bastion of the British conservative media, The Economist, as the world's most important prisoner. When a pillar of Britain's conservative media deems a prisoner held by Israel to be of such importance, it cannot be overlooked. Marwan Barghouti is indeed just such a person, a political activist, a strategist, and a leader of such stature that even his critics and enemies recognise the power within his being. So immense is his stature that the Zionist regime has held him incarcerated for the past 24 years, much of which time he has spent in cruel conditions, solitary confinement, beatings, and for long periods deprived of access to his family through visits. Born 10 years after the Nakba, he grew up experiencing on a daily basis the injustices inflicted on his people. Refusing to be intimidated by the occupational forces, as a young man, he led many demonstrations and protest at mistreatment of his people. So powerful were his words and his leadership that on numerous occasions he was imprisoned by the Zionists. Through these terms of imprisonment, Marwan Barghouti's reputation and standing within the Palestinian community grew. His intelligence, his personality and his commitment to the cause of his people not only made him known across Palestine but also brought him to the attention of the leader of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, Yasser Arafat. Yasser Arafat saw in the young man a potential leader for the future and entrusted him with several important tasks at home and abroad. And it was often said that the young man was viewed by Arafat as his successor. However, in 2002, as the duplicitous behaviour of the Israeli government and its treatment of the Oslo Accord rendered any possibility of a fair and reasonable settlement impossible, Palestinian resistance increased, and the Israeli military captured Barghouti as part of its response to the backlash against its duplicity. Barghouti was brutally treated while under interrogation and eventually sentenced to 3 life terms for allegedly ordering military action against the Zionist state. His trial was held in public, and like so many others, in the expectation by Israeli authorities that doing so would undermine his credibility within the Palestinian community. However, this gambit did not work out well for his captors, as he made several memorable, uncompromising speeches that only enhanced his reputation. For several years after his sentencing, he was held in solitary confinement. when eventually being returned to serve his sentence among the other Palestinian political prisoners, he immediately instigated intensive education programs for his comrades. Incredibly, over the following years, more than 1,000 Palestinian prisoners achieved degree-level qualifications thanks to his efforts. Amazing as that was, he did not confine his energy to educating his comrades. In 2006, he oversaw the drafting of what has become one of the most influential documents in the long struggle of the Palestinian people. In what has become known as the Prisoners' Document, he outlined a set of proposals that could lead to unification of all currents within the Palestinian people. Consequently, he is recognised as one of the few, if not the only, leading figure among the resistance capable of winning the confidence of all parties involved in the struggle. It is no coincidence, therefore, that in spite of his affiliation with the Fatah organisation, when Hamas issued its demand for prisoner release, he was listed number 2 in that order, behind only a legendary figure, Ahmad Saad. Need we say more about his importance to the struggle for justice for Palestinians and its people, because together with Saad they can build the solidarity and unity essential for progress. The campaign demanding his release is of crucial importance not only to the Palestinian people but to humanity in general. We have known the cruelties of long-term imprisonment at the hands of an oppressive regime, understand that we have an obligation to do what we can to further this cause. Freedom for Ahmad Saad, freedom for every political prisoner held by the Zionist regime, freedom for Marwan Barghouti. Free Palestine from the river to the sea.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.